Get ready to dive into some of the most intense and provocative stories where family ties blur and forbidden emotions take center stage. These movies explore the delicate, sometimes dangerous dance between stepmothers and stepsons, with drama, tension, and unforgettable performances that will keep you hooked from start to finish. What the Peeper Saw is a disturbing, atmospheric thriller in which the tension is built not on action but on psychological play. A young woman marries a wealthy writer and moves into his mansion, where she meets his son from her first marriage. The boy seems charming, but with each scene it becomes more and more obvious. There is something sinister in him. Between him and his stepmother gradually builds a tense, almost hypnotic relationship, full of innuendo, understatement, and anxiety. This movie doesn't just flirt with the theme of forbidden intimacy. It explores how fear and desire can intertwine into a single dangerous emotion. What the Peeper Saw keeps the viewer in a constant state of suspense, keeping them guessing where reality ends and the manipulation begins. The picture slowly but surely draws you into an atmosphere of paranoia and moral ambiguity. The Second Wife is a subtle and provocative exploration of forbidden passion set in the atmosphere of a post-war province. A young woman who becomes the second wife of a widower suddenly discovers that the main threat in her new home is not a strict household, but her attraction to her teenage stepson. The plot unfolds slowly, almost mundanely, but behind the outward simplicity lies a painful tension. It's as if the camera is peeking in as something much more risky emerges from a timid sympathy. Director Umberto Maria Giannini does not condemn or justify his characters, he observes. And that's the movie's strength. He doesn't tell you how it's right, he just shows you how it is. The Second Wife is not a scandalous movie for scandal's sake, but a melancholy, almost poetic story about the inner emptiness that can give rise to the most dangerous desires. 40 Shades of Blue is not so much a movie about passion as it is about silent pain and emotional isolation. At the center is Irina, a Russian woman living in Memphis with her elderly husband, an influential music producer. Her world is quiet and cold until her husband's adult son from a previous marriage shows up at the house. A subtle, not immediately apparent connection develops between them, filled with tenderness, loneliness, and dissatisfaction. This is not a tumultuous romance, but a painful coming together of two lost souls. Director Ira Sachs relies not on flashy scenes, but on penumbras, pauses, and glances. This movie is like a jazz improvisation, slow, intimate, and filled with subtext. 40 Shades of Blue demands thoughtful viewing and rewards those who appreciate drama, not in words, but in silence. Tadpole is a witty and light comedy about growing up, but with a very racy twist. 16-year-old Oscar, a well-read and intelligent teenager, returns home for vacation and discovers that his heart is not occupied by his peer, but by his charming stepmother. His attraction is not just a youthful whim, but a real feeling, albeit naive. However, things get complicated when he accidentally finds himself in bed with her friend. The movie does not turn into a farce, but retains an ironic, almost French charm. It talks a lot about love, maturity, and the limits of what is allowed. Tadpole bribes the ease of presentation and charismatic performance of young Aaron Stanford. This movie is not about scandal, but about finding yourself, about how the romanticism of a teenager collides with the realities of the adult world. Smart, charming, and a little bit sassy. The perfect movie for those who like unconventional stories of growing up. The German movie Ping Pong is a dark, tense drama in which silence sounds louder than words. After the death of his father, 16-year-old Paul comes to his uncle's house to stay with his family. The subdued atmosphere of the country house is gradually filled with anxiety, especially in Paul's relationship with his uncle's wife, Anna. Their rapport develops without too much expression, but in every look, in every movement, one can feel the inner tension. Director Matthias Luthert masterfully avoids cliches and does not give direct answers, leaving much between the lines. There is no romantic tale here, just awkwardness, restrained impulses, and a sense of impending disaster. Ping Pong is a movie about the coldness of a relationship and a desperate attempt to escape the emptiness. It doesn't offer solace, but it sneaks in goosebumps. Definitely not for everyone, but for fans of European auteur drama, it's a real discovery. Bernardo Bertolucci's Luna paints a disturbing and deeply personal portrait of a broken family, centered on the painful bond between mother and son. After the death of her husband, the famous opera singer moves to Rome with her son, hoping to start anew. But the reality turns out to be grim. The teenager falls into drug addiction, and the mother, gripped by guilt and fear, begins to get dangerously close to him. The movie teeters on the edge of the acceptable, not so much for the sake of provocation as for the sake of exploring the limits of love, addiction, and despair. Bertolucci is not afraid to embarrass the viewer, forcing him or her to ask themselves uncomfortable questions. Luna is not a scandal, but a psychological tragedy where incestuous innuendos serve as a metaphor for emotional fusion. This movie is not about the flesh. It's about a soul entangled in pain and the desire to be needed. In Phaedra, Jules Dassin brings the ancient Greek myth into modern times, creating a tragedy against the backdrop of the dazzling Mediterranean. Melina Mercouri plays a wealthy woman who has become the second wife of a Greek shipowner. Everything changes when she falls in love with his adult son from her first marriage. Young, passionate, but internally broken. Their connection is not a romance, but a fated curse. The movie slowly brings the inevitable catastrophe to the surface, heightening the senses and bringing destructive passions to the surface. Dassin infuses each frame with aesthetics and symbolism, emphasizing the fateful subtext of what is happening. Phaedra is not just a story of forbidden love, but a majestic and painful tragedy in which passion turns to death. Mercury shines in the role of a woman consumed by a feeling she cannot control. This movie is for those who appreciate classic drama with a modern twist. Hallam Foe is a dark and unusual story of growing up with a touch of mysticism and psychological thriller. The main character, a young man with a difficult past, comes to his stepmother, trying to understand himself and family secrets. His view of the world is filled with loneliness and hidden desire, and his relationship with his stepmother is complex and ambiguous. The movie balances between psychological drama and light fairy tale, making the viewer immerse in a labyrinth of emotions and memories. Director David Mackenzie masterfully plays with mood, creating an atmosphere of anxiety and anticipation. Hallam Foe is not a typical romantic story, but rather an exploration of the darker sides of love, loss, and forgiveness. This is a movie for those who enjoy deep and unconventional stories with elements of mystery. The Stepmother is a dramatic and sensual story that intertwines complex family relationships and forbidden attraction. A young woman becomes a stepmother to her husband's son, and a subtle but powerful emotional bond develops between them, forcing both to re-examine their feelings and boundaries of what is permissible. The movie explores not only forbidden love, but also issues of power, loneliness, and the search for understanding in the family. The director masterfully creates a tense atmosphere where every look and gesture is filled with hidden meanings. The Stepmother is not just a story of scandal, but a deep exploration of human nature and its contradictions. The picture makes you think about how far feelings can go if they are not controlled. Queen of Hearts is a bold and profound drama that is not afraid to touch on the most difficult and taboo topics. The protagonist is a successful lawyer whose life is turned upside down when a dangerous, forbidden attraction develops between her and her stepson. The movie explores the moral boundaries and devastating consequences of a passion that seems forbidden, yet is incredibly powerful. Director Maya Hansen-Lasse deftly balances intimacy and drama, showing not only the emotions of the characters, but also their inner conflicts. Queen of Hearts is not just a scandalous story, but a profound psychological portrait that makes the viewer think about the complexities of human desires and responsibility for their actions. Intense, provocative, and sincere, this movie will be remembered for a long time. Thanks for watching. If you're fascinated by stories that challenge boundaries and explore complex relationships, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss a deep dive into cinema's most gripping tales. Which film intrigued you the most? Let me know in the comments.